You're listening to In Sumter with Sarah Jane, a show about celebrating Sumter, a part of the Item Podcast Network, presented by SKF.
Oh, I guess he's ready to start. Sarah, let's stop all that.
We've got a thumbs up. I'm Sarah Jane, and I'm here with Calvin Hastie. And I asked you earlier how to address you, and you're just Mr. Hastie or Calvin? Or?
Yes, Calvin is just fine.
Oh, that makes me feel more relaxed, too. You can just call me SJ or Sarah Jane, whichever.
Okay, I will.
Not that you were nervous about it. Okay, so who are you? Is a great question to start with.
Yes, I was born here in Sumter. I had a paper route as a little boy. I was a paper boy for the Item. So I worked for the Item when I was a little boy.
We've just circled back.
And I just said, what an amazing situation this is. Here's a young man that was a paper boy for the Item, and now he is a candidate for mayor of this city. I like to tell my friends, only in America can this happen.
I love that story so much.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? How old were you? What year was that?
I think I was like 7th and 8th grade, just delivering paper. We would come, pick them up in the morning. This was before I went to school. Can you believe
that's it,
Right.
People of that generation. Are you a baby boomer, or are you part of, is it silent generation than the baby boomers?
Boomer, I would think.
You're a boomer?
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of boomers had jobs and then went to school, and so...
It was almost mandatory to get a job. Our parents were pushing us out. You got to get a job.
Well, y'all didn't have to be at school till 10:30, so...
That's right.
I'm just kidding. So you're a paper boy, and then you've done, I was just quickly reading your bio, you've done all kinds of stuff.
All kinds of stuff,
Where'd you graduated from Lincoln High?
Lincoln High School.
And then you joined the military to go to college, is that right?
No, I went to South Carolina State University in Orangeburg. Okay. And just an interesting story, I went there after the Orangeburg massacre, where those 3 young men were murdered on their campus. So I walked into it, and it happened the spring of '68, and I entered college after that in the fall.
Things were a little tense in '68.
Oh my goodness, they were marching and protesting and burning the American flag, and I was like, what in the world have I gotten myself into?
Right.
But after 4 years, I decided, you know what, I'm going to go in the Army and do something about this situation. Instead of protesting and marching and complaining, I'm going to go in the military, and it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me.
So what arm of the military did you go in?
The Army.
Okay.
The Army. I was in communications in the Army.
And what'd you go to school for?
Believe it or not, I was a biology major, chemistry minor.
What were you going to do with that?
My plan was to...
Tell me the dreams of young Calvin Hastie.
My dream was to go to medical school and be a doctor and save lives.
Very prestigious. Had your eyes on the prize.
I had my eyes on the prize. Then the military, when I was at South Carolina State, they made me an offer that I couldn't refuse. They paid us $100 a month to be in the ROTC program. I immediately signed up for the ROTC program, not knowing anything about the military.
Who paid who?
The school. That was a part of the program.
Paid all the people?
All of us who joined the ROTC.
$100 a month.
A month. That was like
in 1970.
That's right. Can you believe that?
That would have bought all the books.
So I joined in. I signed up. Of course, I didn't know what I was signing up for. I was just signing up for the $100.
Yeah.
But
it had a little bit to do with how you ended up in the Army.
a little bit to do. So finally, at my senior year,
I could march around doing that.
I signed up, had to go on active duty, and again, it just changed my life, really. Changed my life.
Speaking of things we don't know what we sign up for, when I was in college, I wanted to go do all these things, and it was a lot of stuff that I didn't realize what I was signing up for.
Yeah.
So what changed between wanting to be a doctor and then going to the military?
Just seeing so many things in the military, some injustices that I thought I saw some lawyers representing some of my soldiers, and I said, you know what? I can do a better job than that. So I said, when I get out, and I didn't go until 20 years later. I didn't go to law school until I got out of the military. I was 42 years old when I entered law school.
Spring chicken.
Spring chicken. But that's what changed. But the Army taught me so much, as you may have read. Before I even entered the Army, my senior year at South Carolina State, there was a NATO competition in Maryland.
Okay.
And Major Gary came down because they never had any African Americans on this team. It was a military competition of all the NATO countries. And he came to South Carolina State, and 8 of us signed up to participate. So before I even went on active duty, I joined this effort, and it was in Fort Meade, Maryland, and 8 from South Carolina State entered. And at the end of the day, I was the only one from South Carolina State that made it through the entire competition. And the first time it was held in America, and we won 6 of the first place competitions.
So no black people had ever been on this team in America, and then America had never participated in this.
No, they participated, but they never won.
And then it's the first time that it was held in America.
First time it was held in America.
And you won? Your team won?
My team won.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was great.
See what happens when you diversify.
Good
That's
things
why
coming. I believe in diversification.
So I think it's really interesting that you went from something biological or chemistry kind of, and then went to legal. I've had professors, when I was in college, switch, and they said, they got into legal because it was everything was all, they felt like it was going to be regimented, and that medical was going to be, very fluid and always changing and learning, and they felt like that was the opposite, that the body is kind of the same.
That's right.
And that the legal stuff is always changing.
That's right. You don't have to have a degree in any particular area to go to law school, so but of course if you were going into medicine, you need some type of background probably.
So when you went to law school, where'd you go?
Carolina.
Nice. I think you said that. I'm sorry. When you went to law school, did you have a focus already, or do you get a focus after? Like, how does that work?
They don't teach a focus in law school, but all of us have a lean to what we're leaning toward. And being a defender of folks was my lean. I wanted to be a public defender, which is what I do to this day. I defend children in the courthouse. So I've got scheduled several trials on Thursday, every other Thursday.
Every other Thursday.
You want to come over to the courthouse and bring your broadcast, you can kind of see it
Check
live.
it out, see what's happening?
Yeah.
So how did you get hooked up with defending children? Is it just...
There was a need here in Sumter. Most folks didn't want the job because it paid very little, and still does, I might add. But it wasn't about the money with me. I just wanted to give back. I wanted to help a lot of these children. Some of these children need someone that understands their situation, because they really aren't bad children. I thought some of them were. They're just haven't had any direction. So many of them haven't had a man to tell them, hey, you can't do that. That's not acceptable. They were just kind of, and many of them are raising themselves. So I decided to see, can I help?
Well, what ages is a good?
From 12 to 18.
12 to 18. Okay, so you're, Katie, as you know, has taught me that children are not just children. They're tiny humans, and so so when you start getting to 12 and 18, they're well on their way to becoming men. They've already formed a lot of worldview in there, so I bet that is a little bit difficult.
That's right. What Kate has also taught me is that, a lot of times there are other things going on with these children when they're acting up in school and misbehaving. Maybe it's not that they're just bad. Maybe there's something going on in that home. So I started going back, going to the home, talking to mothers and fathers, and you can really see how terrible things are for some children.
Well, and Katie and I talk, being a therapist for children, a lot about, is it the chicken or the egg kind of thing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do we fix this problem of, like, kids who need help, but then we've got to, sit down and be able to talk to them. But then the parents are just their kids themselves, babies raising babies.
Yes,
and so it's like, how do we get there? How far back do we go?
That's right.
Have you, so you get out of law school, you start doing this, and you just kind of knew off, like, I want to defend, you knew you wanted to be a public defender, and you knew then that you wanted to work with kids, or what experience brought you to that place to where you are now?
Well, because I was such an old person going to law school, they used to call me the old man in my class. these folks were like 19 and 20 years old,
But as soon
22.
as you step out of the classroom, you can pass as like, somebody who knows us. We're like, yes, he's an attorney. He's not new. He's been here for a little bit.
So, So it was really nice, just being able to advise some of them, because some of them would come to school without the right attitude. And I was, hey, you're going to be a lawyer one day. And what's frightening, many of these young people that were in my class are now leaders in the state.
Are you still frightened?
I'm more frightened.
You're more frightened. Okay.
I'm more frightened now.
Got to have those conversations ahead of time. Okay, cool. So where is your office?
Right downtown, right
Okay.
around the corner. I'm on Hampton Avenue.
Okay.
I enjoy being here in the historic district. I like being a business owner, so I can identify with all the progress we've made here in the city. Because I own a business myself here and have employees that I have to take care of. And Sumter has really just boomed, as you well know, in the last couple of years with our hotel, our fire department, our new police department, our planning building. It just goes on and on. And that's why I would like to carry that on.
So
later.
You're running for mayor.
Yes.
Very exciting.
Yes.
What pushed you into that decision?
Well,
And maybe push was the wrong word. How did it come about?
it came about, I had been on the council for 10 years.
That's right.
And one thing I talked with Mayor McAveen about, I didn't want to run against him because he was like my mentor. So when he decided not to run anymore, I said, well, now is my time. I am going to run. I think I bring a lot to the table with my experience in the military, with my qualifications, my dedication, being a homegrown Sumter fella. And I have a talent of being able to unify people.
I like that.
While I was in the Army, it was 72. Vietnam ending. A lot of soldiers coming back home. We've got Black Power on one side and KKK on the other side. And the Army asked me to be an instructor, a race relations instructor. And I learned so much how to pull people in a room with different views and make them be, compatible. They can get along together. And I'm not asking you to change your views, but you can at least talk to one another and be kind to one another. So, the Army sort of led the way in that particular area, integration and race relations.
I had, I wouldn't have thought that the Army would have been a leader in integration. I guess maybe I just haven't thought a lot about it. But what are some of the things that you learned from, or what are some of the things that you learned from unifying people then to what you want to bring into your run for mayor and possibly being mayor?
The key thing I've learned, we've got to listen to people. We've got to listen to people. And so we were able to sit the different sides in a room and let them express themselves without the other side throwing paper balls at them. Let's listen to people. I think that's the problem with this movement that's going on in our nation right now. We've got to listen to these young people. We've got to give them an opportunity to express themselves. We can't just say, you all are bad and we're going to lock you up if you walk downtown. No, let's get them in a room and let's sit down with them. What is it you want? What is it? Let's see what the issues are. And I think that's what we need to do in this country.
Do you feel like we have issues to work on here in Sumter?
All of us have issues to work on.
What are some that are like heavy on your heart?
Well, not heavy on my heart, but we've got to, again, listen to one another. You have one part of the city that probably feel that they're underserved. You got another part of people that are part of the city that they're well served, and can't understand why this group up here think they're underserved. And everything is great. Because
I'm doing just fine over
We're
here.
Just fine.
What are you talking about?
So I think my job with my experience, and I believe that God has prepared me for a time such as this, to be the leader of this town. Let's bring people together. That's my strength. Just bringing people of different cultures together.
I like that a lot. There was, I can already kind of get a vibe of some of that unification. And I think that's the best thing that you can do for your community is just listen. Just listen. Go ahead.
I don't think our diversity should be a problem. I think we have strength in our diversity.
Yes.
Let's look at that as a strength, not as a weakness. It's good that you and I are different.
I think so
I don't want you to be like me.
Yeah.
And I probably don't want to be like you.
A 30-year-old single white woman, and
I don't think so.
Comes with its own set of problems.
No, right.
It also comes with its own set of pros.
You stay there with your own set of problems, and I will stay here with mine. I have grandchildren. Oh God, they were here with me this weekend, and they left today, and this afternoon has been the happiest time of my life when they went back to bed. I watch most SpongeBob Square Dance. I'm like, what is that? SpongeBob Square Dance.
Is that the first time that you've seen it? No, it's terrible.
Square Dance. That's all they wanted to watch. Of course, I want to look at the news.
You had the melody down. SpongeBob. You kind of had it, so I know you listened to it. Yeah, absolutely.
My wife said, how did you learn that song?
It's
indoctrination.
It is. It's some kind of like mental torture for the parents who have to do it. It's like, why? And you wake up in the middle of the night singing it. Like, wait for that. Yeah. So, what do your grandkids call you?
Granddaddy.
Granddaddy? That was so. How many came? How many of you?
Two. I have two. Two grandchildren.
You have two, and they both came.
Yeah.
Man, that is a whole lot of fun.
Two children and two. But my son has both of the boys. My daughter's not married.
Okay.
She too is single.
Hey, it's not a bad life. It's not a bad life. You get to make all the rules.
Good. Yeah, because in my house, my wife makes all the rules.
Come on, there's negotiation.
No, there's no negotiation.
No negotiation.
When I walk in that house, there's one rule, one leader.
So, we got to get her to listen.
Right, that's right. See, I have a talent for getting along with folks. The way you get her to listen, you be quiet and say, yes, dear.
That's why you're such a good listener.
Oh, my God, I'm a great listener.
How many years have you been married?
47 years.
47 years of listening.
I've been listening.
47
years. We met at South Carolina State, matter of fact.
Oh, my gosh, tell me.
We met in college. She's from Spartanburg, South Carolina. And we met my freshman year. And we stayed together the entire time, just as a couple. Then
that's why you needed ROTC money, because of Friday night.
We graduated. She wanted to be a flight attendant. And one thing, I tried to put my foot down right there. I said, you know what? I am not going to marry a flight attendant.
She said, okay.
And now we've been married 47. She said, okay, bye. I said, well, let me reconsider. That's what my lawyer came. Let me reconsider that. Let me restate that position.
We're going to say no first, and then we're going to circle back.
Yeah, and she was a flight attendant for 29 years with Delta Airlines.
Good for her. That's probably the number one thing that you could have said to ensure that.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm definitely going to do this for at least 1 year. Got to at least apply. If I apply and I don't get it, it's because I love him. If I apply and I get it.
So we had a great time, then we started having children, maybe 5 years into our marriage, and being in the military, we were able to go all over the world.
What was your favorite place?
Germany.
A lot of people say that.
In Heidelberg, Germany, there's this castle. It's like a fairyland there.
Is that the one at Christmas? Everything is just Santa land.
Yeah, that's right. It's just beautiful. I had my children there, and they just enjoyed it. And so, Europe is so small compared to America. Yeah. On the weekend, we could drive to the Netherlands. We could drive to France. We went to Paris for a weekend. We really stayed a week. And so many places we could see just being in Europe.
I love that. Excuse me. So when I was over there, a 2.5 hour car ride, the people there freak out.
Right.
It's just going to take us all day to travel. And I'm like,
That's
2.5?
right.
That's like to the beach. We'll be back like by dinner.
Right.
Late-ish, at least
That's
by
right.
ice cream. Like,
That's
we will
exactly
return today.
right.
So it's so cool because you get to experience so many different things just making that short trip over. Being exposed to diversity is a big piece of, I think, of being able to lead the people groups. It makes you, if I can say, I think it makes you a better listener.
Yeah.
Not saying anything about anything. I just, I probably more from personal, not to tell personal stories, but like going to college and coming back and being exposed to all the different worldviews and all the different opinions. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, it's not this way or this way.
Right.
We got a lot of options here in the middle.
That's what I loved about NATO. There were so many countries in NATO. And Heidelberg was the NATO headquarters at that time. And I was on the staff. So we worked with the French and the Germans and all the officers. And all of us were officers. And, the Americans, we would work 24 hours a day and just work all the time. But the French and the Germans, when 5 o'clock came, the French had a little saying, there's nothing so important that it can't wait till tomorrow.
It's a very straightforward saying.
Very straightforward. Americans, we're working at 10, 11 o'clock every night.
Gotta get it done.
And he's gotta get it done. You gotta get it done.
Who are we racing?
Ourselves. Right. It's certainly not the other NATO countries. And they got the job done sometimes better than we did. So I learned a lot from them about, you got to relax sometimes and back away from some things because you can just get yourself in such a uproar about stuff. And sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees, as they say.
I think that lends itself well to being a public defender, maybe. You just got to let's just not say anything. Think about it for a couple days.
Yes.
Just come back. Collect ourselves.
That's the hardest thing I teach my clients. If you learn how to keep your mouth shut, if you could just be quiet, I could get you out of this trouble.
Yeah.
But no, Mr. Hastie, I want the judge to feel me. I want the judge I said, no, I don't think you need to do that. But you got to remember, as an attorney, I represent the client, so I must do what he says. So you want to talk to the judge? Yes, sir.
What a difficult position.
Yeah.
Because, oh, man. Yeah. No. Shh.
Right.
Don't be talking to nobody.
Be quiet.
Be quiet. Right. Just, I want him to understand. No, he doesn't need to understand where you're coming from.
One of the major rules they taught us in law school.
To go free.
Yeah, let me talk for you. One thing we taught us in law school, never ask a question you don't know the answer to. So you can't go out there just talking because you can talk yourself into some trouble in that. And that's in the world today, Mm-hmm. I think if people can learn to hold their tongue, sometimes will be very helpful.
Well, you look a lot smarter when you talk less.
That's right.
Yeah, because people don't know what you know or what you don't know.
What you don't know.
If you don't say what you know or what you don't know.
That's right.
It's one of the things struggling, like getting started with this. Like, I don't want to ask questions to make me look dumb, Yeah. But a lot of the questions that I want to ask, nobody else, the people listen, they don't know either. They want me to ask this question, so I'm like, just ask the question.
That's right.
Everybody wants to know the answer.
Right.
So, man, so you graduated high school in like 68.
Yeah, 68.
you went off to college, you joined the military, your wife. So this
72.
is a timeline thing that I wanted to catch up on. While you're in the military,
yes.
your wife is a flight attendant.
Yes.
So she's just flying all over the place, coming
back and forth.
How did that work? I guess it worked well since they're in airplanes.
Well. I told you I'm a good listener. I had to plait the children's hair. I dressed them. My wife is gone most of the time. I took them to school. I did their homework, and it was wonderful for me as a husband.
That is so great.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're out of the military. You go to law school. You want to be a public defender, and then you settle on defending. What would you call that age group? Children.
Yeah, probably for youth.
Youth.
Right.
And so now you've come all the way to running for mayor.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that just get you excited about, like, if I'm mayor, I really want to do this?
Well, you know, I think Sumter is in a really good place. So Sumter isn't a broken city. That's what I'm excited about. Things I plan to work on, however, are public health and safety.
Okay.
You know, we got to do better with our health and in the entire city, and certainly safety, because, you know, we must ensure that all of our citizens are safe, feel safe in their homes. And you hear all these things with the police now. Mm-hmm. We don't have that in Sumter, I don't think. Mm-hmm. But we need to assure all of our citizens that our police department and our sheriff department in the county are working for their best interests. So that's one of the areas I want to take a look at. Of course, next is economic development. You know, we're doing great here in Sumter, but I want to ensure that we continue to grow and not take a step back. You know, affordable housing. We got to do better with affordable housing. We got to get housing that's affordable to all of our citizens. We have done a great job in demolishing people's homes.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah, but we've got to look at how can we get affordable housing, and certainly to those communities that may be underserved.
I like that a lot. You know, real estate, it's finding affordable housing is more and more difficult.
Yes.
Finding, you know, a couple years ago, it wasn't too hard to find a grant or something. Even the city even offered a couple $10,000 down payment assistance, forgivable.
Right.
So just to bring some of that stuff back, or I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
Get some of that going. It's hard to find a house under $100,000.
Yeah.
And a $100,000 house, that taxes and insurance and the payment, it's going to be $120 is going to put you about $750, $775. Yeah. So 100 is going to put you around $7. So, and 7 can be hard. Yes. And if you need that 3-bedroom, I'm getting off on a real estate tangent. I'm so sorry.
You see what a listener I am? Go
you
right
did
ahead.
it really. You got me too, because I just started talking all about it. So yes, we both agree that affordable housing is necessary. It's really hard to find those.
Another area that I'm very concerned about, our youth in the city. So I want to implement some youth initiatives we've got to get our young people out of these houses and being active again. When I came up, and you know, my daughter hates for me to say that. She said, "Dad, stop telling us when you were a boy. You know, we're dealing with these current times, not back in the dark ages. But when I was young, all of us were outside all day. We played ball, we played softball, baseball, football, basketball. We all knew each other. And so and it helped us because we played football so much. When that group, when we went to high school, we all knew who would be the quarterback. We all knew who would be the running back. We all knew who could catch a ball and who couldn't catch a cold. We knew those kinds of things. So Lincoln and I ended up having one of the best teams when we came through there because we started out as children together. Our children don't have much to do here in Sumter. Too many young people are walking the streets.
Okay.
Out of school. And then this pandemic didn't help at all, did it?
No.
Now all the children are home.
You have no activities and they're at home.
Activities.
Yeah.
One thing, initiative that we've started in my area that I represent, during the summer we have, we call it Fun in the Park. All ages of children, grandmom can play. We play softball. We have young men to come out there and teach them how to play golf. We have the tennis center send representatives to teach them how to play tennis. And these are children that have never held a tennis racket in their hand, ever. Never touched a golf club. And we've been doing that in the South Sumter Park for now 5 years.
Man, that is so cool.
5 years.
I'm ashamed to say that I didn't know.
Yeah.
The fun in the park. So part of it is I see where you're coming from with getting if I can talk to you and expand on this a little more.
Sure.
Okay. So I see where you're coming from with wanting to get kids out of the house and get them doing stuff. The other part of me says there's so much that we learn from technology and growing up into a technologically driven world.
Right.
Do you have any thoughts on bringing those two things together?
Yeah, that's what I was about. Yeah, why can't we do that together? In the park, we have the gym. Mm-hmm. There's a gym right there. So we are going to have programs in the gym as helping the children with their schools. We will have computers in there, mentoring in there, so we can do both. We can exercise and we can learn at the same time. Fantastic. But let's not have one without the other.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Be really difficult to grow without having both.
Yeah, I think so.
Man, I have learned a lot. That is very good. So,
with the youth, let me mention about one of my concerns is concerning the health of our young people. Mm-hmm. Because we have so many of our young people aren't eating healthy meals. Some of them are eating potato chips and sodas and candy every day. That's their meal. And another initiative that I've started with my neighborhood associations, we have started a farmers market on Manning Avenue. It will open this year on this coming Friday from 2 to 6 every Friday. And we have vendors coming in there selling vegetables. It's almost like a flea market / farmers market. You need to come out and visit us sometime from 2 to 6. Some are selling jewelry. One lady cakes. Someone is from Clemson Extension showing us about healthy eating, healthy cooking. How do you prepare food? How do you prepare these vegetables that are right here? So she demonstrates that out there.
So it's on Manning Avenue.
Yep.
Is it across from? Is it where that big building was? It's like there's is there like a Jehovah's Witness place, and then on the next block there was this like big muffler building, and they just moved that or demoed that, I think.
The easiest way to
tell me where this. You be in charge of telling me where it is instead of me guessing.
I live over there, okay?
Well, you tell me where it is. You tell me where it is.
Do you know the Bracelet Plaza with the clock, the big clock on Manning Avenue, 4-sided clock? That's called the Bracelet Plaza. You can't miss it. Come on the bridge, you'll see the clock. It's right across the street from the clock.
Oh, okay.
Can't miss it.
Okay, I went 2 blocks too far.
And can you believe there's a shelter there, a farmers market shelter already built? It's been there for years and not being used.
That's cool. So the farmers market, you said your neighborhood associations.
Yeah.
What are these neighborhoods? Are you a part of like an HOA or like what's going on with that?
What we've done is organize neighborhood associations. We must have at least 10 in my area. There may be as many as 40 in the city of Sumter. 10 years ago, they were very strong. They're sort of decreased now, but we organize neighborhood associations, then they tend to look out for one another.
Okay.
If there's a senior there just by herself, the neighbor will call and check on her. If there are strangers in our neighborhood, like if you walk down my street now, we'd call the police on you. Okay? Because we know you don't live over there.
You don't live here.
You don't live here. Hey, we've got a suspicious white woman walking down the Manning Avenue.
She's in toe-up jeans.
Right.
And pumps.
She's probably doing something illegal.
She's selling something. I don't know what it is,
right.
but you got to get her out of here.
So, and that's kind of good and bad,
because
we can discriminate sometimes, but it's good most times because we're able to help the police. We partner with the police department. We meet with them every time. We have monthly meetings, and they send a representative there. code center representative to these meetings, and we get to show them, here's a house that needs to be torn down. It's dilapidated, and it's been wonderful.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. Those neighborhood associations, though, so why a lot of them have gone down, because it is a lot of work to keep those up. I'm gonna be contacting you about getting involved with that. Who wants to sell your house? Okay, so back to the farmers market. Just it's all about connecting with those homeowners. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Friday from 2 to 6, and so is there anything different between saying it's a farmers market and what's different about it? I'm asking that question poorly. Then it's just a farmers market. I mean, it's not just a farmers market, but it's a farmers market for that neighborhood.
It's a farmers market. It can be like a flea market. We have a young man that's coming out there that he does exercises. So we have another group over here, and he's leading them.
There's like a whole it's like a little
music is being played out there. It'll take us a while to get off this summer, because when you're just starting things.
Well, in the pandemic, you're not supposed to be hanging out.
That's right. Can't have too many people.
6 feet. Right. Okay, cool. I'm going to stay in touch with you about that. And then, okay, so public, you said public health. Did you cover what you wanted to cover with public health?
Yeah, we just got to do better about teaching our young people what to eat, and we must provide facilities where these parents can purchase healthy food in their areas. There's not a store that sells fresh vegetables in certain parts of the city, which is not a good thing. So they can't walk to a Piggly Wiggly, or they can't walk to a Food Lion. So these children just go to these, what do you call them? These little
5 and 9, like a convenience store.
Yeah.
Thanks for pointing that out, because that's another part of, lack of a better term, my privilege. I never thought about it. Like, I drive through these neighborhoods. I have a house listed, and I think one of the neighborhoods you're talking about. And there's nowhere to just go get food. It is quite the trek to go.
Trash. Yeah, you gotta go even.
You got to figure out a way.
Where's the restaurant?
Yeah, I didn't even think about.
So that's one thing I'm going to work on. We all want to do better. And that's one thing I've talked to the economic development people, and they are about to move the development out.
Right.
And that's what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
And in all directions, the west side, south side, and the east side.
Okay. So if you've got, I guess that we're just going to have to stay tuned, because I'm like, you would have to incentivize it, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So do you have any ideas on how, can I ask you that on this? Like on how you're going to incentivize?
Well, we incentivized Continental to come here, didn't we?
Yeah, that's right.
I shouldn't say that. We gave them a lot.
Yeah. You negotiated some give and take. So it's okay.
You all can have your office building downtown rent free for 2 years. We can do.
That's cool.
We can do other things too to incentivize people to put these neighborhood Walmarts, neighborhood food stores in other areas. That's my plan.
Yeah, I'm into it. Okay. Thanks for expanding on that with me.
Sure.
And I think, can we dive into some civil rights stuff? Is that okay to talk about?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so right now we are in the middle of marches and protests and Black Lives Matter and all of that stuff, and you running for a community leader position, talking about, I don't think you can unify those people and lead two groups separately. And I say this because the last numbers I read, we're 49 point something African American, 49 point something white, and like 2% Hispanic.
Right.
So just on like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, how do we, and I know that you said earlier that we're not a broken place,
City.
And I don't think so either. Right. How do you feel, what's the best way to ask this question? To just communicate to both groups, not just black and white groups, but also there are black and white people that are not wealthy, and there are black and white people that are wealthy, and how do you communicate with all of them Do you have like a theory around that?
Yes, I think
Help me ask you the question.
Yeah, I go back to, we must get representatives from all sides together. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about our strengths. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about our differences. Let's talk about our weaknesses. I don't want you to change your core belief in what you believe in, but I would like for you to be able to listen to the other side as to what their core beliefs are. We don't have to change. You can't become black, and trust me, I can't become white, but I can understand you better, and I understand you more now than, of course, I just met you today. But if we hadn't been communicating, I would have never known much about you. And the same here. We got to communicate. We got to get together because we are more alike. That's one thing I learned in the military by going all over the world. We are more alike than we are different. There are so many things we can agree on. Now, I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. See, a lot of people hate Dallas Cowboys, but, so we aren't going to agree on the Dallas Cowboys. So let's put that aside. If you're a Redskin, you're not going to put, So let's put that aside. But what about all the other things that we can come together on and work together on? That's what I've done in the past in the military. I've been to West Point. I was an instructor up there. And that was after the cheating scandal of the late 70s, because you couldn't teach at West Point unless you were a West Point grad. I was the first wave of captains that they brought in that were non-West Point grads to teach their children, and it was just really wonderful. Of course, we're in a situation where the old school West Pointers didn't like us coming in, non-West Point grads. Something must be wrong with you. You're not a West Pointer.
Were you not good enough to get into West Point? Because how could you possibly go learn at the hands or minds of anyone else?
That's right. So it was a wonderful experience, and we have such bright young people. One of my classes, I had about 15 students in my class, and I said, how many of you all were valedictorians in your school? Every hand went up. Everybody in the class was the number one person in their school. So that's
crazy.
The quality of young people they have at these military academies. Hopefully that hasn't changed. Hope they're not letting people like Calvin Hastie in, but
I think they would be proud to have Calvin Hastie.
So it was a great experience. So you get to meet these young people. You remember the commander of the 3rd Army, General Brooks. General Brooks was the first commander of the 3rd Army when they moved here. When I was at West Point, General Brooks was the commandant of all the cadets. He was in charge of the entire corps of cadets. I'm sitting down new, so I'm watching the big formation. It's beautiful to see. And out walked this young black kid and called the whole formation to attention. And I said, who in the world is this kid? His name was Brooks. And I meet him 20 years later, and he's a 3-star general, and he was at 3rd Army.
That is super cool.
Yeah, and I saw him, and I said, and he tells me not to tell the story, but he came to my church one Sunday. I said, why don't you come to, I said, have you decided on church? He said, no. And I said, well, I'm inviting you to my church. Of course, when we tell a general officer that, they never come. They never come. And guess who walked into my church on one Sunday was General Brooks and his wife. That's the kind of leader he was. So I've had an opportunity to work around so many good leaders. General Schwarzkopf was just outstanding. I worked for him for 3 years at Fort Stewart when he was a 2-star general. And he just taught me so many things. He was a genius.
Love it.
We were briefing him one time. His men were briefing him. I was just in the room at that time. And they were going through all these slides. We were getting ready to go to the desert in Africa, to Egypt. And they were telling him all the ammunition we need to have. And finally we got to there. He said, those numbers don't add up. And everybody said, who cares? Who knows that? And he sent them back, and they double-checked the numbers, and they were wrong, and he was right. After going through like 50 slides. But that's his mentality. He is a genius.
He's just checking things all the time. There comes, yeah. I like your answer to that. That being a leader is listening to people, and it doesn't matter. I like that you've compounded that. Just listening. Katie handed me this question, and I do think it's an important question. It's one that I've had conversations with different people from. When you talk about building up these communities, especially underserved communities, so part of that and making affordable housing available, part of that is bringing the value of these homes up, bringing the value of these communities up. Right. There is a very trendy term for that right now, gentrification. How do you bring the value of this up, and how do you work on these communities without gentrifying them?
We have already started that in the city of Sumter. We received $12.5 million from Clyburn, Representative Congressman Clyburn.
Yes.
And from Manning Avenue. So we're going to revamp Manning Avenue. We're going to redo the streets. The bridge that we all so familiar with, we have a plan to redo the bridge. It's going to be beautiful. We feel that once we start fixing up those areas, other people are going to come. As mayor, I'm going to try to ask the council to, when we are trying to build some new buildings, some new facilities, some new office, I'm going to suggest let's put it over on some of these other areas where we will attract people to come. We got to improve the conditions, improve the facilities over there, make sure that crime is not a problem,
right?
Because it can be in some of these areas. But
well, and in saying that, bringing that value up and making it attractive for other people to move, how do we make sure and protect the people that live there can continue to afford to live there, and they're not just pushed further out?
That's why one of my main areas is affordable housing. We want housing, but I want to bring housing that's cost $200,000. We need housing that the people in that area can afford. So we may not be able to build the large houses, but let's bring in some housing that is affordable. So that's one thing I'm very much concerned about, because as I said before, we've been tearing down homes and we've done a great job. But the more we tear down, the more I see that needs to be torn down. Right. But at some point, we got to provide housing. And, we did a housing study in Sumter, right, last year, and they said what we all know is that all the housing is going out west, right, towards Shaw. And we need to do more on the east side of Sumter, the south side of Sumter. So they pointed out, I don't know why we needed a study to tell us that, but we did. But the big question, and probably the hardest thing we're going to have to do as a council, is work together to make it better for all, because that's how we're going to win. That's how we're going to grow. Again, what I've learned throughout this military is we all want the same thing. We all want good housing. We all want our children to have good education. We all want good health. Whether I went to Japan, Korea, Germany, Egypt, it's the same. We all want the same things.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And you've brought up faith a couple times. You live in the South, so you know this. We have as many denominations as we have church buildings, so all slightly different. And I think, being Protestant and of Christian faith, there are some things you just line up on. There's no need to fight amongst the people. After you got somebody going to church, say, "Lord Jesus, they're saved."
Right.
Keep them over there. Just keep them in the basket. Okay, we don't need to. So there are some things that we can just line up on.
That's right.
We all need to be fed.
Yeah.
Hopefully clothed, housed, and one day all of us happy. It's going to be a tall order, but just hitting those things. So can I ask you about the curfew?
Yes.
You were one of the only people to vote against the curfew.
Yes.
Can you tell me about, what were you thinking?
Well, when it was introduced, I understand the curfew was it was decided at 3 o'clock that we're going to close the city down at 6 o'clock.
Right.
And I was concerned that our business owners did not have enough time, you know, for the employees to go home. Even my law practice, I had to close. I normally close at 5, but around 4:30, I said, "You all better get out of here, get home, because it's not good to call your lawyer to get you out of jail for violating the curfew." And I'm on city council. So when I went to the meeting, I just asked, what was this reason that it was decided that it needed to be closed down? And I just did not get a good answer that I was satisfied with, so I voted against it.
Okay, I appreciate that answer. Now we're going to have fun questions.
Okay. I've been having fun all the time.
Where is your favorite place to eat in Sumter?
My kitchen.
Great answer.
My wife, well, she cooks the best fried chicken out, even though she don't want me to eat it, but she.
Does she make gravy?
I make gravy.
You make the gravy. We're going to have you over so you can make gravy. Okay, so, because I messed gravy up last time we made it. Okay, if you could go pro in any sport, what would it have been? Or could be?
Track. You know, I ran track at South Carolina State. I ran track for the Army. I ran track for Lincoln. I ran track at Bates. So I've been running all my life.
Huh. Yeah, so sprint, short distance, or?
No, 400 meters.
Oh,
I ran
okay.
a 400 meter. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. You could beat me to that door over there, guaranteed.
I doubt it.
If you gave me 10 seconds head start, you could still beat me to that door
that
over
was
there.
Long
You overestimate my ability.
I love
quickly.
running. I grew up running. You know, for fun, a friend of mine, he's a pastor in New York now, Reverend Thomas. He and I would run from the south side of Sumter out past Marsh College on Saturday morning and back for fun.
See, I don't mind running a long way.
Right.
Don't time me.
Okay.
So, I think the very best time, and I'll shut up, 10-minute mile. Like that's as best as it's getting, and that's only sustained for 3 miles. That's not any great distance.
That's good.
So, okay, if you could be famous for something, probably mayor of Sumter. That's what you want to be famous for. I'm just kidding. What would you want to be famous for?
Changing young people's lives.
Oh.
I would like to touch someone's life.
Through this whole video, I feel like you've woven that story in there.
Yeah.
Of just being a proponent for change for young people.
You know, some of the things we've done for young people in this town, in my area that I represented for 10 years, we take them to the Carolina Panthers training camp in the summer, if they behave properly. We take them camping at Fort Jackson, Western Lake. We spend the weekend fishing, and what I found out was a lot of the parents had never been camping. So we asked the fathers to go.
I bet there's a lot of
they were
laughing
as excited as the children. Fathers didn't even know how to put bait on a line, not just a little kid. We also we just do so many things to them. We took them to doing spring break every year. I take a group of children from the community to DJJ so they can see what real jail is like. Because
see how dicey it gets.
Television sort of glamorizes going to jail. And they were shocked because there's a tour and it's really terrible.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to go. What if, gosh, I gotta have you, because I want to ask that question again, because I want to, anyway. But the other one is, if you could have a superpower, what would it be?
A superpower? Boy, that's a good question. If I had a superpower, what would it be? I was about to say to let everybody go to heaven, but that may not be a good idea.
That's the third podcast. That's part 3. We talk about redemption and living and grace.
It's already available for everybody, but
we get into all kinds of stuff with that.
You should have heard my sermon this Sunday, but we'll talk about that later. I was talking about sliding under the gate.
Ooh, you just slide in just in time.
Some folks are going to just slide just in time. The game is coming down.
Like, sorry. Okay, now cut the machine off.
Right.
Now you can pull it.
You're out. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Okay, so what'd you say your superpower was?
To allow everybody to go to heaven.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming to talk to me.
My pleasure.
It was so easy and fun, and can't wait to talk to you again about anything, not just even on the podcast.
Just call me or call Marvin Boyd.
I'm going to have Katie call them. I'm going to have my people call your people.
That's how we operate. We can't talk to each other now.
We'll be on the phone for 4 hours and never get our work done.
Right.
So, Brindle Black, the new issue, is out, so go check it out. It's there's a great recipe in here for some pizza. Boom, pizza. There's also some really other good stuff. So find that anywhere you can shop local. And as always, we are powered by F45, and you've listened to In Sumter with Sarah Jane. Have a great week. Oh, Arnold Palmer's. This week, Calvin, our guest, chose Arnold Palmer's from the Hamptons. Thank you so much. I haven't had one in so long. It's so tart. Thanks. See you guys.